All right. Good evening, folks. This is the Seekers podcast for May. This is the 24th of 2026. I'm your host. Oh, Neil showed up, but it says not. There might again, Neil. No might. But anyway, I'm your host, Wendell Hurricane Burrows. We're trying to get the co-host on here, but he's having problems again. Dale has just joined us. And we're going to let everybody introduce themselves and go around clockwise. All right, it'd be me, and then Daryl, and then BC, and then Barry, and then Dale. All right, go ahead, Daryl.
Well, I'm known as the Tennessee Bigfoot man. Daryl Denton, lived in Tennessee most of all my life. I kind of share Tennessee and Jersey now because my lady lives in New Jersey. So I've done research ever since my first encounter of 1992 in Woodbury, Tennessee, when a wood booger tried to get me. And been doing it ever since and had a lot of experiences, a lot of good encounters, and practically lived with a family on the river for nearly 5 years that I became very close to and had quite a few dogman experiences besides that.
All right, BC.
BC Davis. I'm in White County, Arkansas, and the area I live in is, for those that have heard this before, but this is a window area. Basically, if there's a cryptid out there, it's here. So anyway, and happy Memorial Day to everyone.
Happy Memorial Day to you.
All right, Barry.
Hello and God bless everybody. I'm Barry Robinson, North Central Kentucky, and I think they're more afraid of me than I am of them, or I ran them all off or something.
Hey, it's been quiet around here too. All right, Dale.
I'm Dale Bullock, Cleveland County, Arkansas, up around Heber Springs. Good to be here tonight. I was running low running a little late. This late afternoon sun that's kind of fooling. I was outside piddling around like, whoa, it's almost 7 o'clock. So hope y'all are doing good today. Happy Memorial Day to y'all.
Happy Memorial Day to you.
Again, I see you clicked on here, Neil, but it won't let me add you again, same as last month. I don't know what's going on, but all right. Daryl, we'll just let you kind of take over here and just tell about your experiences and how you got into Bigfoot and what all happened, and then we'll ask you some questions afterwards.
All right, Wendell, that sounds all right. Well, I got all started with this in November the 6th, 1992. I was deer hunting on my grandfather's farm in rural Cannon County, Tennessee, which is about 92 to 96 miles from Nashville. It's way out there. There's not a whole lot around where my granddad lived, and I grew up on that farm, but we hunted adjoining farms around it too. His neighbors knew him, didn't mind us hunting there. So me and three of my buddies had about a 5 mile area to hunt, and lots of white-tailed deer. And we've been going there for 4, 5, 6 years at that time. It was opening week of black powder or muzzleloader, as we call it. And we got there on the Sunday before opening day, and I pulled my camper behind my truck, and two of my buddies pulled our ATVs behind me in their truck and trailer, and we all had one. And these hills are a lot like Arkansas. They're straight up and down, and sometimes you can't ride one-on-one. Sometimes you can. But anyway, my granddad welcomed us there every year to hunt. For we stayed there a week from Sunday to the following Saturday. And we had either sex, one with a black powder rifle, and we got one every year that we were there, and a lot of big deer there too. And this particular time, I told my granddad, I said, "What'd be the best place for me to get a trophy deer? That's mainly what I'm looking for." And I was standing on his back porch, old country house he had out in the middle of nowhere, and he pointed out over the hill and he said, "You see that third hilltop there with that crooked tree on it?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "There's where you need to go." He said, "It's about an hour, probably 45 minute to hour walk back there. But when you come down that big hillside, the top of it, you'll see a creek at the bottom, and there'll be what's left of an old grist mill there. And there'll be a clearing in the woods there. And right across the creek on that clearing, you'll see a pretty good area that's clear in the middle of the woods. And that's my old home place. What's left of the log houses fell in. You'll see the tin roof and the chimney standing up, and you'll know you're there." And so I knew pretty much where I was going. I knew how to get there. I just had to walk the distance to find it. And we all had a good time that night. And my granddad hung out with us down at the barn. I said, "Wake me up in the morning." And he come down and knocked on the camper we were all in the morning and said, "Boy, get up." My granddad always called me boy. He never called me by my name. And he said, "Time to go." And I got my gear and my black powder rifle and headed that way. And I went out behind his back of his house and went through his backyard into a gate that opened up. And there's about a 200-yard wide field there with sage grass in it. And I'd been there the day before. I'd already walked it, so I knew pretty much how to get there. Had my flashlight, went through the gate, shut it, walked across that field, and my granddad's cows were in that field. And got to the other side, and there's about a 6-foot fence with 2 strands of barbed wire on top. And I climbed up on the fence and jumped over into the leaves and started heading that way. And those hillsides are about a 45-degree angle, and they're tall and long. And I started up the hillside, and all of a sudden I heard something to the left of me, and it sounded like a person walking. It was definitely bipedal. It was somebody walking, and I stopped. Kind of scared me a little bit, and I turned to the left with my flashlight and shined in that area, and I didn't see anything. Didn't hear anything again, and but I was a little startled thinking about it. I knew my granddad wouldn't have anybody hunting in there. And my buddies were all in different directions. We had stands we had built, and we had carry stands too. And the day before, I'd carried a stand over to the area that I was hunting in, and I knew the kind of the way to get there. So I headed on up the hillside, still on my mind. I didn't know what that was walking to the left of me. It didn't sound like a cow or a horse, it sounded like a person. And I got on up to the second hill and went across it and all the way up to the third hill, and I'm going down the side of the last hill, and I get about halfway down and I hear this walking again up on top of the hill. I just come down on to the left of me, and I stopped and shined a real bright flashlight I had up there, and didn't see anything again. And I take a couple more steps and I heard it again, and I stopped and held the flashlight there for a good 5 or 6 minutes and never seen anything. So I hurried on down the hill, and I got to the bottom of the hill and I could see that creek, and I followed the creek around to the left where I'd put my climbing stand around a tree the day before, and walked around that side, and I found my climbing stand and got my feet in the climber and sat back in the stand and started climbing. And I have a 28-foot rope, and it's tied to my belt loop, and my end of it's got a little clip, and I clip my muzzle loader strap onto it. And when I get set up, I pull it up that way, and I started climbing up. And when the rope gets tight, I know I'm about where I want to be, and that's just the height I always hunted at, my own preference. And I'd trimmed some limbs off the day before behind me, and I kind of leaned back in the stand and got it kind of where it bit into the tree real good and where it wouldn't slide, and reached back behind me and got my safety strap and put up under my arms and around me, and took my fanny pack off that had my powder horn in it and my extra Hornady bullets, and hung it on a limb behind me. And I had some lunch and my binoculars I hung up on the limb to the left of me, and I kind of leaned back, and there was a little canopy that there's a bar that goes around me with this stand, and when you drop it, it completely conceals you all the way up from right under your neck with a camouflage little screen that goes out around you and keeps you from being spotted by anything. And I'm kind of leaning back and I'm getting ready to hunt, and I pull my gun up with the rope and unhooked it and put it between my legs and leaned it against that bar and waiting for the daylight, basically. And it's probably an hour before daylight at this particular time. And right before daylight, I started hearing all the regular animals moving around in the woods, squirrels, like you always do early morning, and birds, woodpeckers, and that type thing. And it was a real foggy morning. I looked out across that creek, and this creek's about 10 or 12 foot wide, but it's pretty deep. It's about at least waist deep, and it runs all year round. And I looked. The creek had fog on it, and I couldn't see the other side. I couldn't see the clearing yet. It was too foggy. And as the sun brightened up a little bit, the fog started disappearing, and I could see the other side. Now, the day before, I'd crossed the creek and went up on the hillside to the right. There was a game trail on top of that creek bank across the creek, and I'd hung a drag rag up on a tree limb there off an oak tree, about a 10-foot long branch, about 8 foot off the ground, and drag rag, which has some scent on it that I put on when I deer hunted. It's a doe and estrus, kind of gives it a smell down through the woods and keeps the human scent away. And I had that hanging there, and I could see it. And it was a clear morning. It was sunny, and the fog had removed. And wasn't long after that, to the left of me, I noticed there's a huge cane thicket. Looks like bamboo, but we call it cane in Tennessee. And it goes all the way down the left side of that creek around a bend to where I can't see where it goes after that. But it's pretty thick. It's probably 40 or 50 feet from the bank all the way back deep. And it's tall. It's 15, 16 foot tall, and it's real thick. It's hard to walk between for a person. And I'm all of a sudden to the left of me, I catch out of my eye, I see a deer come out somewhere over in that cane thicket, and it walks across the creek and wades across it, goes up the bank and to the top, and walks right down the game trail to the right. And then two other deer follow it right behind it up on the game trail. All three of them are walking down. I'm on an angle, about a 45-degree angle, straight up on a tree. So I'm almost overlooking the creek. And these three deer just walk right down that game trail on the top of that creek bank and started doing like deer do. There was a real big acorn harvest that year. They were eating acorns and just milling around like deer do. And I watched them for a good while. They were just normal, just doing nothing spooked them or anything. They didn't see me or smell me. And I watched them a good while. And then for some reason, all of a sudden, the bigger deer, the two deer behind this one, were a little smaller. That was probably the mother deer or the doe, and probably her young ones from a year or so ago. And they all froze. They're looking right at this cane thicket. They're just completely frozen, not moving, just staring right at this cane thicket. And I watched the big doe, the front one, I watched her ears flicker a little bit. She is not taking her eyes off this cane thicket. And I'm immediately thinking, well, here comes a big buck. It's going to come out of this cane thicket. And I'm kind of excited. And then the doe takes her right hoof, raises her leg up, and hits it 3 times on the ground, looking into that cane thicket, trying to get something to move or get some type of attention for whatever's in there. And then a few minutes go by, and she raises her nose and lets out a real loud blowing sound, sounds like somebody sneezing, but a lot louder. And that echoes all down through that hollow, and it's loud. And she's still stopped and staring over into that area. And I'm thinking, well, here comes a massive buck out of that cane thicket here, is following these doe. And I'm kind of excited. And then all of a sudden, the big doe turns, runs right in front of me, turns and goes to the right. And I'm looking right down on these deer. They went running right by what looking straight forward on all three of them running as fast as they could. And I watched them run off into the hardwoods to the right of me. And I was a little bit puzzled because normally deer don't do that unless somebody spooks them or shoots at them. And I don't never seen one do that with a buck or another doe. And trying to think that was a little different. So I'm waiting to see what they seen because I can't see anything over there. And then all of a sudden the cane thicket starts moving from the very back. You can see the tops moving. Something's coming through it. Probably 5 or 6 of these big tall cane things were kind of waving from the back, and it's coming closer to the front. And I'm thinking, this is one massive buck deer to come through that cane thicket like that. And it's pretty awesome. This is going to be a big buck. And I reached down and pulled the hammer back on my gun, and I heard it click. And I'm excited, thinking this big buck's coming out of this thicket. And then it gets to the edge of the thicket, and all of it stops. I can't see it moving. This buck has stopped, and it's about to step out where I can see it. And then out steps this creature. And I've never seen anything like that in my life. And I'd hunted all my life on that farm, but not quite that deep in. And this thing steps out, but takes about one step, just barely out of it. I can see the whole side of it, its head and everything. Then it takes one step and leaps completely across the creek, lands on the other side, right on top of the game trail, and just slowly walks down the game trail. I'm facing straight down on this thing, just walking right by me. This thing's walking right by. It stops immediately where I'm sitting in the tree and turns and looks right at me. And this thing knew where I was at. And I knew this is what I heard coming in. And I'm really in a state of shock. I didn't know what to do. I'd never seen anything like this. And it's just staring at me, and it starts showing me its teeth. And it's just gritting its teeth at me, showing me its teeth. And I'm just thinking, what should I do here? I mean, is it going to come across the creek and pull me out of this tree? And then it starts growling. And it was the most guttural growl I've ever heard since. And I've had some growls since then. And it was really mad at me. It had the most evil looking face of anything I've ever seen. And it was really mad. The right side of his mouth was either deformed or had some kind of accident, and it was kind of twisted on the right side up the side of his face. And it was growling, and all of a sudden it stops and it walks maybe 10 feet to where I had that drag rag hanging in that tree off that big oak tree. And it reaches up. Its head is about even with that top of that limb, which I can reach about 8'2". I'm 6'5". And his head was about even with that limb, so it was around 8 foot tall. It pulls the limb down, it smells of it, and then it rips the entire limb out of the tree. It throws it on the ground. Now, this wasn't no massive limb. It was probably 2 or 3 inches at the base where it went into the tree, but it still took a lot of strength to pull it out. It definitely got my attention, and it throws it on the ground. Then it walks right back and stops and starts staring at me again. Well, by this time, I'm thinking this thing's going to come across this creek and kill me. It's going to pull me out of this tree. I didn't know where to shoot it. I started thinking, if I shoot this thing, I've got 150 caliber Hornady bullet. And if I don't kill it, all I'm going to do is make it mad. And this thing's huge. I don't know that one bullet will kill this thing. And I didn't really know what to do. And it's staring at me with it was really mad. The face was just mad. And it's still growling, still showing me its teeth. Then it lets out this unbelievable yell-like scream. And it's so loud, it echoes all down that hollow. It's just so loud. I can still hear it now. It was so loud. And it just echoed down that hollow between the yell and the scream, and it's still staring at me. I said, well, this is it. This thing's coming across the creek. I pulled my gun up on that bar and I've got it aimed. I'm laying there ready to aim. If this thing comes across, I'm going to fire one time. That's the only chance I got. And I was trying to make my mind. I was trying to breathe at that moment. I couldn't even get my breath, but I didn't know whether to lower the bar and jump or shoot it. And because it was mad at me, it didn't like me being there for sure. And then all of a sudden, it just turns around and starts walking off into the hardwoods. It stops one time, it turns back and looks at me, and then it walks into the hardwoods. And I'm watching it walk into the hardwoods. It didn't look back again, and it's just taking its time walking into the hardwoods. And I watched it till it was out of sight. I lowered the bar, and I jumped out of the top of that tree with my gun above my head, landed in them leaves on about that 45-degree angle, slid all into the creek, the water up above my waist. I jumped up, looked across the creek, took off running as fast as I could, and I ran all the way up the other side, around the hillside, up to the top of the first hill, and I'm running as fast as I can down that hill. And I'm going up the middle part of the second hill, and I've got to stop. I'm so gassed, I just don't have enough wind to keep running like this. And I slowed down to stop to get my breath, and I looked on the hill, and the thing is standing up there on the top of the first hill to the right of where I went down, just looking at me. And all that did was kick in my adrenaline. I thought, this thing's going to chase me down. So I just took off as hard as I could. Crossed the second hill, went down the second hill. I'm almost to the top of the third hill. I looked back, did not see it anywhere. Got on top of the third hill, looked back, didn't see it. It wasn't there. And I started running down the third hill as fast as I could. And I just stopped and crossed this 6-foot fence, wire fence with 2 strands of barbed wire on it. And I made my mind up. I wasn't stopping. I was jumping it. And I'm running as fast as I could, looking back, keep looking back. I didn't see this thing chasing me. And I jumped this fence. So I cleared it, but the bottom strand caught my pants and ripped them from the very bottom next to my shoe past my knee and tore a big gash in my leg. I never even felt that. I just kept running across the field as fast as I could run, looking back, and didn't see the creature. I got to the other side and got to the gate, and my grandfather's back field there, and opened it and slammed it, looking back, and didn't see the creature, locked it, and ran into his backyard area up on his old wooden porch and went through the back door there and reached out and put the hook on the old screen door and shut the door and locked it. And I'm looking out the window of the door. I still don't see the creature. And I run into that's the kitchen area. I run into the right. I run into the living area. My granddad's sitting there on the left in his rocking chair. And there's a big potbelly stove in the middle of the house between the corner and the middle of the floor. And I ran over and sat down behind it. I was so out of gas, I just couldn't speak. And my granddad kept saying, "Boy, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Are you all right, boy?" I just couldn't talk. I hadn't got my breath back. And I sat there a few minutes. I just kept telling him, "Give me a minute to catch my breath." And I got up and looked out the window and went back to the kitchen area and got me a glass of water and looked out the window. I didn't see the creature anywhere. And I came back in and sat down on his couch there. And he said, "Boy, what's wrong with you?" I said, "I seen a monster in the woods." He said, "A monster? There ain't no monster in any of these woods." I said, "Oh, yeah, this was a monster. I ain't never seen anything like it." He said, "What did it look like?" And I told him, I said, "It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it." And he said, I told him what it looked like, the height and build. He goes, "Oh, you seen a wood booger?" I said, "Granddad, me and you live together. I lived on this farm with you all summer since I was a kid and stayed here a lot. You never mentioned a wood booger to me." And he said, "Well, I didn't want you to know about him because you wouldn't hunt in the woods, and you wouldn't camp in the woods, and you wouldn't fish in the pond, and you wouldn't stay all night in the hayloft like you did with your cousins and your friends." And he said, "They're here. I've seen 4 of them in my lifetime." My granddad was 92 years old at that time. And He was one good strong man. Now he was cutting 7-8 ricks of wood at 92, and he was a 65-year-old man in a 92-year-old body, but he was a tough guy. And he said, they don't normally hurt you. They just don't like you in their territory. I've seen 4 in my lifetime, close. I'll be in the field working, and I'll be plowing, and I'll look up and want to be standing there watching me. He said in the wintertime, they get hungry. They come to the chicken coop out here. My granddad had probably 60 or 70 chickens because he sold eggs. And he said the wintertime, they'll take 3 or 4 chickens. They won't take them all. They'll leave a little pile of rocks and sticks like they're paying for them. He said then they go on off. He said they don't bother you. They're just real territorial. He said, you know, them sounds you heard when you was a boy, you used to ask me, what's that yelling and screaming sound down in the woods? He said, I told you there's no catermite. And I said, yes, sir. He said, that's what we was hearing. One of them things yelling and screaming at another one. So that was my first encounter, and it literally took me about, I didn't go in the woods for 7 years. Never been that scared in my life, and I don't scare easy. I've been around bears and everything else in the woods, and some spirits even scared me, but not like that thing did. But they definitely real, and you know, Tennessee. I've seen quite a few forest people and Bigfoot since that day and time, but I never seen another wood booger, and hope I don't.
Huh, yeah. Neil had a question. When you was in the stand and when you first saw the wood booger, how far away distance was you at that time? You estimate that to be?
Probably about 60 feet.
Pretty close encounter then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 28 foot up in a tree on a 45-degree angle. I'm overlooking the creek, and this creature's staring at me. I'm pretty close to 60 feet, maybe 70, but I could see every feature on its body real well. So
Wow.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and you know, I had nightmares for months. I went hunting with my buddies, but I just stayed in my truck and went to the farm fields, and I hunted in the field, and they hunted in the woods. But it took me a long time to get over it. I couldn't believe I had nightmares over this thing. So this thing, I truly believe at that time it wanted to kill me. Now I don't think that now. I've learned a lot from these creatures. If they wanted to kill me, it could have. And they're fast as a blur. I mean, you see a blur, that's how fast they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the ability to twist a tree in half if they want to. So, you know, I know a whole lot about them, a lot more than I did at that time. And I do believe the one I seen when I was running back to the house was not the same one. I believe it was probably another one, because where there's one of these creatures, there's 4 or 5. There are always some of them around, unless there's a rogue one that's been kicked out of the clan.
Yeah.
That's what we've come to discover too. 90% of the time, they ain't just one.
Yep. They stay in families or clans, people call them, you know. And there's a lot of different types out there. I don't know how many different types. I believe I've seen 4 or 5 different types. That's what I believe I've seen.
From just what we've seen here in Arkansas, there's 4 different types here in Arkansas. At least 4 different types. Maybe possibly more.
Yeah.
Anybody on the panel here got a question they want to ask?
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Barry.
You said it was about 8 foot tall. How wide from shoulder to shoulder? How thick from chest to back do you think it was?
I don't know the thickness, but I can tell you I estimated this thing to weigh somewhere between 600 and 800 pounds. It had a huge body. Its head was big, its body was big, its arms, its chest. When it got down below its knees, its legs were thin. They weren't big below its knees, but the rest of it was big. So I've never seen another one like it. You know, I looked it up, and of course, at that time when this happened in '92, you know, there weren't any podcasts, there weren't any radio shows, there weren't any groups like I have, there weren't any. there wasn't anything, nobody to talk to about this stuff. You start mentioning it, people think you're crazy or making up some kind of story. But you know, at that time I went to the library. That's really the only place I had to go, and I started looking for books about Bigfoot. And I found a book, and it was in the library. I don't remember the name of it, but it had, in the book it had the top 10 Bigfoot. I don't know if there's 10 Bigfoot or 40 Bigfoot. There may be all kinds of them. I don't know. I haven't seen but 4 or 5 different types, but this book had 10 of them in there. I don't know how correct that is, but the coincidence was the number 2 in the picture of all the things, the second one, it had drawn pictures. These weren't photographs. These were drawn pictures of these creatures. But the number 2 in the book was a wood booger. And it looked identical what I seen, except the eyes in the wood booger that this person had drawn were red, and the eyes I seen on this creature were black. So that was the only difference in it. The mouth wasn't quite contortion like this one had, but everything else looked just like the creature. And it said they only live in Tennessee, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Kentucky. That's where they mainly live at.
Huh.
The wood booger type. That's what it said.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the teeth, Daryl. Did you notice like the canines, or was it more the big?
They had flat teeth just like us.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of Bigfoot over the years since then. You know, forest people too. I do think there's a difference, and there's the same creature, but the forest people are the friendly ones, and they're the ones that make the big X's in the woods, and they became my friends for a long time. And I've never seen one with canines. Now, the area that we research in, land between the lakes of Tennessee and Kentucky, me and my team. There's lots of people who have seen the Gugway, which supposedly is in the eastern area of that, close to the Tennessee River. That creature has those type things, but I've never seen a Bigfoot or a forest person that had a fang.
That's interesting.
Have you? And we only seen this one time, and you know, the normal everything looks like a just oversized human foot with maybe wider and a mid tarsal break. But have you ever seen one that had the foot like the ape with the turned out deal? Me and Dale's tracked one at one time, and when we first started seeing it, we thought, well, maybe this was something down on its hands and knees. No, it was one that had a outturned big toe, I guess you'd say it was. So
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have not seen that. I have not seen that. I've got 2 buddies of mine that have seen that track and have mentioned it several times. Now I have seen, very strangely, a 3-toed one, and I've also a 3-toed track, and I've also seen a 4-toed track. So and the 3-toed track I've only seen one of those, and it went quite a good ways. It was in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. That we tracked that one quite a ways, and I did, and I never seen the creature, but I've seen the tracks. So I've been told that the 3-toed track is a lot of times crossbreeding because there's not a large enough population. I don't know how true that is, but I've been told that by the scientific people I know. I don't know how true that is, but
well, we saw the 3-toed tracks up in BC's area.
okay.
And we found more than one size.
Yeah,
that one was 19 inches long.
Yep.
And before we saw that, I would have said that you're crazy. If it is, it's just from an injury or something like that. Because we've been all over Arkansas and saw 5-toe everything. The only place I'd actually seen a track was a cast at Falk Museum down in Falk, Arkansas, at the Monster Mart. And Denny Roberts is the one that showed it to me, and I said, well, I've never seen anything like that. It was a 3-toed like that until that day we was out at BC's at Ball Knob, and now I'm a eyewitnesses of at first we just found one track, and then eventually we found a trackway where it was left and right, and it went probably 60 feet, like you're saying, this trackway. So you know it wasn't from
Yeah.
an injury if it's on both feet. And then at a later
Yeah.
time, we returned and found some smaller ones that was three-toed. So there's a breeding population somehow there that's got a genetics for three-toed.
I do know that's true. I've seen them. I've seen that particular. I followed that track for a good probably a mile, and it was 2 of them, 2 feet.
Yeah.
And you got into some rock and hardwoods, and I lost the trail. But it was that was back in 2020, and and a buddy of mine, one of my teammates, Martin Groves. He's been my best friend 46 years. A guy that he's with just recently found a 6-toe. So I've never seen a 6-toe myself, but I've just recently heard about that, and several people have been talking about it lately. So I don't know what that's all about, but I've never seen one of them myself.
I hadn't either, but anything's possible, and then you get into the, because only reason I got into Bigfooting is because at first I had an encounter when I was about 12, 13 down here on the Catering and heard chatter talk, but later a deacon told me in the Bible there's Bigfoot, and I thought, you're crazy. But anyway, it goes to Esau, and he was covered in red hair and then had 2 wives that was giants. Well, a lot of the giants had 6 digits on their hands and feet. So there you go. That's just kind of more confirmation here. We got
we just had that conversation about 3 days ago about what you just brought up. So yeah.
Jay Fritz 7390 said in 1966 in Kentucky, 19 miles from what it now is LBL, squirrel hunting, he had encountered same creature that you was talking about there, Daryl.
Wow. Well, I can tell you what, I've seen a lot of Bigfoot since then, and I've never seen anything like that thing. It was just the meanest, ugliest looking thing I've ever seen. This thing was nasty, and it wasn't. I've run into some Bigfoot that were aggressive and would run you out of there, bluff charge you, throw rocks, sticks at you, growl at you. Not like this thing. This thing was just, it was mean. It didn't want you in its area. So, I guess it could have been a lot worse. It could have hurt me, but it didn't. And it could have if it wanted to. So, I just, like I said, that's the only one I've ever seen. Hope I never see another one. And I appreciate you telling me that, Jay Fritz. I know that area you're talking about because Western Kentucky is very, very close, within 35 miles from my house. So I know exactly that area.
That's a good question, Neil.
Maybe. I don't but as far as we're not realizing it, that could be. There's a lot of people that believe that the Garden of Eden was here in America, but they have kind of proof of that. But who knows? They may be some of the hot areas where they return to. That's what we kind of investigate. Is all of our hot areas has what we call a worship area. You can tell that the trees there's an X there. There's a circle been made around the X with trees that fell like different directions of the circle. And all 3 of our hot areas, well, it was 3. At BC's area, they cut all the trees down and burn it all. So now there's just 2 of our hot areas left that's got what we consider to be a worship area. And that might be what's drawing them to these areas. Or they may be other factors that draw them to an area, and they just like us. So if we live in the area, we want to make a church, to worship in. So maybe they're doing that too. But for some reason, there's different areas that Bigfoot return to, or family clans return to, and stay at. So, well, that's
I
what
agree with that. I definitely
we
agree with that. You know, these
we
these creatures are spiritual too. They're not just they're not apes. First of all, they're not apes anyway. They're an ancient people, and I think they're a human hybrid. That's my opinion, and
yeah.
I know for a fact that they're more intelligent than some people. So they know what you're thinking before you even get it out, and they know your intentions. If you go in the woods with bad intentions, your chances of seeing one are pretty slim. And if you do see one, they're going to bluff charge you or throw rocks at you and run you out of there.
Yeah. Ohio Bigfoot researcher says the six-toed ones are the bad one. The Native American always said, and that's why they always show the Bigfoot people their hands when they meet. I'd actually heard that about the showing the hands for a native tribe out in the northwest America, what it is now, but I never realized it might be the Bigfoot people too. So,
I didn't either. That's the first time I've heard that. I can see where that would make sense.
It does make sense.
I have not seen, like in, now let me say this. Me personally, I've been around some five-toed ones that are pretty mean. So, all these creatures aren't friendly, and some of them will have you for dinner.
yeah.
Is that where
definitely.
the whole owl thing come from? Or is that just Hollywood?
The what?
What was it?
How? The Native Americans holding their hand up? How?
Oh,
Yeah, I think
wow.
I'm Native American myself, partly, and my grandfather, my Lakota Sioux. But the how thing is this is friend, and Bigfoot has their own language. The how thing could come from there. I don't know. I really haven't thought about that. That would make sense that's where it could come from. So
Yeah.
but most of the American native tribes, didn't speak English, and that's how they pronounce themselves. So,
Right.
I'm 1/8 Apache.
Have you ever had them respond to the native tongue?
oh yeah. They know native language. They have their own language. They know English language, and don't think they can't speak English. They can.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. Yep.
They don't want you to know that, and the ones I spent my second encounter was by just pure accident. I didn't want to ever see another one of these creatures in my life. I never had no intent to ever running into another one. Didn't even hunt anymore out in the woods. So, but I ran into another family of these creatures. Well, just one at that particular time on the Cumberland River of Tennessee while I was fishing in a rural area that I fished in, and they were completely different. They were not aggressive. They were friendly. They taught me a lot, and I learned a lot from them, and they learned a lot from me. And when I would leave, I would say I would go see these creatures every day or every other day, depending on my work schedule. But I was there, no more than 2 days. I was there to see them, and they knew I was coming. And when I walked into the area, I would say, "Hey, I'm here," and I would start talking to them. About a 200-yard walk before I got to their area. They lived in a massive big kudzu patch. It was huge and thick. And when I would come in and when I would leave, I would say, "Bye, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye." And I would hear, "Bye, bye, bye, bye," in different areas. They'd all say bye. So they know how to speak and mock you at the same time, but they're super intelligent. They're just super intelligent. It's amazing to me. That's another reason, besides their special abilities to hide themselves, that they're higher energy and vibration, where they can kind of go what we call cloaking or go interdimensional, whatever you want to call it. Their special abilities are like nothing that I've ever witnessed. It's amazing how they can do that. And you know, one thing about it, when they do befriend you like this family did with me, you know, it takes a long time to gain their trust. But when I gained their trust, you know, I also trusted them. I camped with them. I slept in my sleeping bag in a tree 30 foot from where they slept. And, you know, they never tried to harm me. They learned a lot from me. They made me gifts, and I did things for them also. So, most amazing thing, I brought them some plastic whistles, like you give at a birthday party, like a little package of plastic whistles, has a little black string on them. I brought them a whole pack of those and hung them on the limbs around the where I would sit and talk to the three that I visited regularly. And I left them that day, and I said, I left y'all a gift because I left them gifts all the time, but at least once a week, sometimes twice, including food, but not regularly, just once a month or so. And the next day when I came in, I said, "Hey, I'm here. I'm 150 yards from them, walking on this trail back through the woods to where I used to fish, and I start hearing whistles everywhere. They're blowing straight ahead to the left. One was clean across the river blowing a whistle. So, you know, I realized then these creatures are so intelligent. You know, I didn't teach them how to blow a whistle; they knew how to blow it. So, um, they're amazing.
That's
They're amazing people.
that's what I remember about the squatching that gap J3. You was talking about them whistles, and that's what I'm planning on taking some when we go out in our investigation in June 12th, 13th, and 14th at Stillmore National Forest.
That's cool.
That's how, talking to other researchers and people, we get other things that we can try and different stuff. And that's what I like about going to these conferences. You hear that, well, I'll try that in my area. So,
yeah.
And that's
you know,
kind of,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's kind of like the Arkansas Bigfoot cartel. When I first got in this, everybody was worried about, I got to stay with just my group, or this, and this one's going to take our stuff, and that's the wrong way to look at everything. We need to all work together and get this topic out there and let everybody else know that these things are real. Like you said, the majority of them are friendly, unless you come across one that's had a bad day or is just bad by itself. Just like people, there's certain parts. I'll just say Little Rock. Certain parts of Little Rock, and that's not a big town. I ain't going. So that's the same thing with these things. But anyway, go ahead, Derek.
No, I agree with everything you said. You know, the only reason that our team doesn't take a lot of people in with us because, you know, honestly, I'm not just saying this. We go into some areas that I'd be afraid to take somebody because I don't want. I mean, it's there's some places in the LBA where there's some creatures like I've never seen before. I don't even know what they are. But you know, we're not just Bigfooting or looking for Dogman down there. There's other things there too, and I don't know what they are, and I it's very strange. I couldn't even come to think about telling you some of the stuff we've seen down there. But you know, these creatures, the one that makes the X's is the ones you want to find. The one that makes take the big trees and form the X's and put X's with dead files on the trails and put X's around their area. Those are their family marker. Those are definitely the friendly ones, and I've learned through all my. I used to spend days and days in the woods, even by myself, when I didn't have a team, and I learned a lot of things from different type of them out there too. Some of them they look at different. They make different structures. The ones that mark their territory with a lot of those big limb twists, 10 or 15 foot up. Those are the unfriendly ones, and not all the six-toed ones are the only unfriendly ones. There's some other ones out there too that have five toes that will definitely get on you in a hurry. So, you know, I don't know if I don't know anybody that I'm aware of that's been killed by one of them, but I can assure you, I've been around a couple of them that if I'd have stayed too much longer, I think I would have been killed. So,
we at Sycamore where we're going, that's what I talked to you before we got on the air, is one of the areas. If you're not experienced and a researcher, we're not taking you there because we like to have a team member get his head took off.
Yep.
We should. That's back when we first got started, and we shouldn't have even had him in there. He didn't believe, and he only had a single shot 243, and he's 19, a football player, big, thinking I'm muscled, and he wanted to see one of these. Well, he went that one night, and he ain't been back because when he went up the bank, there was two that was there, and I think they were sitting down, but he said they wasn't much taller than him. But when he topped that creek bank, one of them rushed out, and our other team member that had been in one of the military services, I don't remember who, I want to say Marines, but anyway, he'd been in one of them. He luckily grabbed this boy and pulled him back as the hand swapped by this boy's head. And he ain't been back with us. So I talk to him every now and then, tell him we're going. He said, well, if I can get away, I'll go. But he ain't had time to go.
I know that story. I really do. I know that story. I never took too many people into my area where my family on the river lived, but I took one of my best friends, and he kept wanting to see them. And, I just don't take many people in there, and I don't talk about it a lot. Of course, in that day, you couldn't talk about it. This was in 99 to about 2004. But,
right.
I took him in there. He kept wanting to go. He's one of my best friends. We played football together, and he's tough as a nail. And I took him in there, and I said, when I sat down next to the tree, out of 5-gallon bucket I sat on next to my tree, they'd come out of the kazoo, and they were 50, 60 foot from me. They'd sit, and I'd try to talk to them and communicate with them. And when he seen that one come out, that first one, it's a female. She's about 5.5 foot tall, and sat down over there and looked at me. He looked at me. He had his head on the back side, behind me on my shoulder, looking at this thing. He said, "What is that?" And he jumped up and ran all the way back, about 150, 200 yards on that game trail, all the way back to my truck, and got in the truck, locked the doors, started blowing the horn. He's ready to go. So, they're not for everybody, that's for sure. So,
right.
I still have a hard time today believing he done that, because he's not scared of nothing, but it scared him to death.
Right.
Hey, Wendell,
Yeah.
what you seen in that picture I took down there at Hurricane Lake?
I will. I'm on. Dale referenced the Yelp. We was at Sycamore again, and we had a camera that was set up out in the woods that just continually recorded until the battery went dead. But we was up there eating chicken, and everybody in the camp was saying, "Yeah, this is good chicken." And Marcus, one of our friends that was there, he said, "Yep. Well, on this camera, I'll send that video to you, Dale or Daryl, and
yeah,
it responds with yep, and none of us hear it, but I've sent that video to several different people, and they say the frequency of it's so low that if it wasn't for the camera picking it up, you wouldn't be able to hear it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I'll send it and that picture BC's talking about at Ball Knob before our area there got burned up and cut down.
Wow.
So it's got all kinds of cryptids in this picture. It looks like it anyway. And we're like, why is all these together?
Convention going on back there.
I don't know if it's a day like a convention or what, but that same day that this picture was taken, me and Dale and BC and a guy named Larry and Robert Taylor was going to this area. And we knew there was Bigfoot activity there, but we hadn't really got into researching this area. Well, when we walked in, Dale was following a trail, and all of a sudden a log come whirling in this way and landed between right beside me, and between me and Dale, and BC was beside us. And that's the next thing we snapped this picture that all these cryptids are in, or what looks like cryptids. I mean, it's crazy looking.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'd like to see that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, one of them looked to be an alien, of all things.
Wow.
And Wendell and I saw it stand up, and I'm guesstimating 6.5 to 7 feet tall.
It looked like
So,
an alien?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's-
there's an alien right in the middle of the picture.
It's a creature I've never seen anyway. That's the best way to describe it.
Wow.
Over to the tree
Possibly a
side,
rake, but I think alien. But
you can see the Bigfoot looking around the tree, and there's no doubt. I mean, it's a Bigfoot. And then there's that what he's calling an alien or rake, or it's smooth skin. And then over to the left, it looks like there's a dog man. So I don't know what was going on.
Well, I believe all this stuff's connected anyway, every bit of it. So I've never seen an alien myself, but I do believe all of it's connected. The paranormal, the aliens, all of it somehow. I just believe that it is. So these,
Somehow,
yeah.
That's about the oddest picture I've ever seen, though. I mean, you can just see there's several different types in that same picture.
yeah.
Wow. That's,
Crazy.
yeah, let's
yeah,
see
like a
that.
family
That'd be cool.
portrait.
Yeah.
And then
I've got
there's
a
something
question.
behind there. Dale took the pictures and just did a little bit of editing where it's just black and white, and you can kind of make out some more things. But the oddest thing is when I zoomed in on the picture of the Squatch, its eyes were hollow. I mean, it's like they were black circles, almost like, they say the eye is the gateway to the soul. It's almost like you're looking in something soulless.
It's definitely got black eyes. So I don't know.
I've seen them like that, but I've seen them like that before.
Huh. I've never had a face view. It's always been the side of a head, a shoulder, the 100 yards away as it went across the field, but I've never had a close up that I could see. I've had them bluff charge me right the other side of the cedar tree, but there's a cedar tree in between me and it. So
Right.
I've never had a visual of their face. So go ahead, Barry.
Going back to the language thing, have you ever heard one speak in Hebrew, or have you experienced the mind speak?
I have never heard one speak in Hebrew, no, and I have had one, not in a particular area in Cheatham County, Tennessee. Billy, my buddy Billy, and I had a friend of ours who was his girlfriend was scared down there. She didn't know what was going on at her house, and come to find out there was a family of Bigfoot looking in her windows between 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, and we went down to try to help them out, and we did, and that particular clan, I believe, tried to mind speak. I've always been kind of afraid to let them mind speak with me. I was afraid they would try to take my mind over somewhat. So that's just my idea about it. I never would allow it. And I got a good friend named Scott Pace, who's probably the best there is at mind speaking.
I've
I'm
never
like you. I don't want it. I don't want nothing but me in my head.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm afraid to let something else in there because I'm not sure if it's a friendly one or not. So you don't know what they're capable of doing. So
it wouldn't want to be inside my head anyway. It'd get out of there quick. I guarantee you. But I have now, at my first encounter, I didn't know what it was, the chatter talk. We've actually had them answer back to the Dale doing Cherokee. Was it Cherokee? I don't know. Dale might have known better than that, but you Choctaw.
Mm-hmm.
We had on Dale's Mountain, I did a Hebrew experiment. We called him Sam. We have a video of it. And I put Hebrew terms up on a board that was above it and changed them out every week. And across from it, they would be glyphs made that responded to the Hebrew glyphs. And some of them was Indian glyphs, Sumerian glyphs that would respond to what I was putting on the board there. So, but I've never actually heard them speak Hebrew. So,
I haven't either, but I've heard people say they can. I've just never heard it myself.
I wouldn't know it if they did. You know, I mean, I would know it's a different language, and I do know it's a different. It sounds just like that chatter talk to me when
Yeah,
I heard them down there.
I've heard that many a time. The chatter, a lot of times.
Yeah,
I've even heard where it sounds like people talking in the woods, normal people or children too. I've heard that many a times.
Yeah, we heard children for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. And it sounded like a whole bunch of them playing. It was 32 degrees that night, and we was at the top of this valley, and they would sound like everywhere. Of course, now this is national forest, and we said, man, is there a group of Chinese out here, kids playing, or you know, somebody that come in, Japanese or something? But here it is, 32 degrees at night, and there's no campground down there below where we was at. And finally, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, there was one big woo, and everything shut up. So we knew that was the time it said go to bed or something.
right. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, one of my best friends, Ron Moorhead, who we have our radio show together on Monday nights. They were in the Sierras where he had the Sierra Sounds in 1971, and they camped in the Sierras, and they heard we're talking about in the middle of nowhere where they were camping at, and they heard what sounded like car doors slamming not far from their camp, and the closest car could be possible would be about 20 miles from there. So then they also heard what sounded like a cow mooing. So these creatures, I believe, have the ability to mock and make the sounds of about anything they've heard.
Right, I believe that too.
Yeah. Well, Wendell and I went up to an area called Cleveland, and we heard something that sounded like banging on metal or car door slamming or something.
Yeah.
And then at Sycamore, we've also heard the moose.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything at Sycamore.
The closest thing to the banging, it sounded like if you ever hit the side of an old dryer or something like that, and you hear the boom, that's what it sounded like. And they ain't nothing out there that should be doing that.
No. It's pretty crazy how the abilities they have to be able to do these type things. But
yeah, that Cleveland area is the first time that I've ever heard a big old whistle like that. I mean, it was loud.
Mom believes they can whistle. They whistled at her in the morning going to work.
Oh, I know they whistle. I've been told by many people, if they whistle at you in the woods at night, do not whistle back.
Huh?
That night it was early in the morning.
Hers was early in the morning. She'd go out to work and get in the car about 6 o'clock in the morning. She'd hear them down in the woods whistling at her, or whistling. I don't know, they were whistling at her, but
Well, I didn't know what it was.
yeah, she didn't know what it was.
Right. Well, I think nothing they do would really surprise me. The abilities they have are pretty magnificent. It really is. I've seen them. I've heard and seen so many things. Especially the 5 years I spent with that family on the river, the stuff they were able to do was amazing. Don't think they don't know who Jesus Christ is, because they do.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up. Or I guess it's not. Probably Jesus planned it, or God planned it. One of the, if you look in the book of Enoch, the only way a giant or somebody of that bloodline can be saved is if they help or save one of us. Now, most of the giants didn't want to do that. They didn't like nothing about the purebred human race, but that's why they was destroyed in the flood. And the only way the giant bloodline made it in, because it says after the flood there was giants again, or at that time, Ham's wife was one of the half breeds of the Nephilim, and that's how come the bloodline went through the flood. And after the flood, the giants were giant, 13 feet tall, but but they wasn't like before that when they was huge. So if anybody want to know, there you go. But if you're out there and you have one, a dangerous one, say Elohim Racha, and it will leave.
Well, you can also say this because Scott Carpenter told me this, and he taught me this back before he passed away. He was a friend of mine, a close friend, and
Yeah.
my farm got terrorized in 2020 from 2 rogue Bigfoot, maybe 3. I know it was 2, but I got rid of them real quick after a 2.5 month standoff with these things. At 2:30 in the morning every night, they start banging on the side of my house. I thought they was going to tear it down. But you can just go out and say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ. Leave me and my farm alone and my animals. Leave now and don't come back. They left and didn't come back.
Amen. Fire in the name.
I couldn't believe it. I've been fighting these things for 2.5 months, and Scott told me, he said, just rebuke them like I did at my house. I'm setting up with a 270 automatic and a 357 Magnum for 2.5 months, thinking they're going to tear my door down and come in. And all I did was do what he told me to do, and it ended.
Amen.
I wish I'd have heard that a lot sooner.
Yeah, they tore Dale's place apart.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Wow. They can be kind of scary when they start tearing up your stuff. I probably had 30 or 35 barn cats. They weren't really my cats. They lived on my farm, but they come to my porch every night and eat cat food. I'd pour it out for them. They killed every one of them. They scared my horses so bad. I had 4 horses. They scared my horses so bad they never went back in the barn or the stable again.
Well, you know, all my cats disappeared. I had a big, what do you call a litter? I guess you call it.
Yeah.
Big litter of feral cats.
Yeah.
And I found the bones up on the side of my mountain, all in the same pile. That was, you know.
Sound like
We had how many cats disappear one year?
22.
Between us and our neighbor, we had 22 cats disappear one summer.
There you go. That's a good
I've had friends and people around my farm at that time that had, I don't know what was going on, but the deputy at that time was investigating all this stuff going on. They killed a massive black steer, award winner, not too far from my place, and then killed a bull. Then I don't know how many calves disappeared. So this went on for about 2.5 months, and until I did the rebuking, and then it ended. So I never seen these creatures but twice, and I just caught a glimpse of them running behind my house and running beside my house. So, but I know it's what it was. I know it was them. They would. I thought it was going to tear the house down every night. It was pretty crazy. And I had a horse that was a stud horse that was. I was the only one that could ride him. I was the only one that could even get close to him. He was just. The farrier would come. You'd have to put a twitch on his nose to trim his feet. He was that wild, and he was born on my farm, and he would let me ride him. He'd let me handle him. Anything I wanted to do with him, he'd let me. But anything else get around him, he would go crazy. Well, these things braided his mane, not his tail, but his mane.
Golly.
That's what I was just fixing. Dale, down here on the creek, our area that we got here on the Catherine, on down south from there, it's a friend of ours that's got horses. Something's been braiding its tails, and they'll take them out and comb them and everything. And I was just fixing to ask if anybody's had any, because I don't know, but we know there's 3-4 Bigfoot, a male and a female, and a juvenile, and was a baby last year. But it's right up from there, and something's been braiding their tails. I said, I had never heard of that happening, but now somebody said it.
Well, I couldn't figure out how anything could get close enough to that horse to do that. But, I've been zapped 3 times or infrasounded, whatever you want to call it, 3 times. Twice by Bigfoot, once by Dog Man. and the dog man was different than the Bigfoot ones, but it paralyzes you for a few minutes. You can't hardly move your legs, and you have to kind of get your ability back to where you can start moving a little bit. And you got a real bad stomach ache and a headache, and you feel dizzy. But if you start praying when that happens to you, it goes away a lot faster. Martin Groves told me that, and it worked. And but that's what they had to do to that horse. They had to infrasound him or zap him or something to make him, to allow them to get close enough to him.
We've had 2 members that we know got hit for infrasound. I think Dale was actually a third one that we had, but it just didn't register that he got hit. Last summer about this time, maybe a little later, we was going to do a Bigfoot investigation. He was the first one there at camp when the bear crossed the road in front of you, Dale.
Yeah.
You remember that? And
Yeah.
you had your air conditioner there, and you left everything, and just had the feeling you had to get out of there.
Yeah, I was just all of a sudden I was like, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna die. And that was the only thing in my head. I left every bit of my gear up here on the side of the mountain. Tent, bed, everything.
I can't say that I blame you. That's probably my biggest phobia is bears. I don't trust them.
Well, that was a great big black bear that was running almost straight at me, and I didn't even realize what it was at the time, and it come by me like running 90 mile an hour. I say, boy, something scared that bear, and then all of a sudden I'd be like, I got to get out of here, you know. But I ended up in ER that night.
Wow.
I drove all the way home. I don't know what time it was when I got here. But that was a bad night.
Did you ever go back and get some stuff? Did you ever go back and get your gear?
No, I think Neil got it.
Okay.
Neil finally went and got it.
Retrieved all of it. I just knew I wasn't gonna go back and get it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
It was at Shores Lake.
Shores
and
Lake,
Neil
yeah.
said, I did get it, yeah. Well, I can't believe it's already been, and we're over our hour mark. A little light flashing. I'm fixing to have to start paying. So I guess we'll end this for this session. Y'all, anybody got any final questions? And then we'll go around and say our byes clockwise around again. Anybody got a question?
I just wondered that area that you go to was what kind of native tribes lived there at one time?
The area that I go to?
Yeah.
The area that we go to mainly is land between the lakes of Tennessee and Kentucky. And there was, I'm pretty sure that, I know there was Cherokee there. I know that for sure. And I can't recall the name of the other tribe that was there, but they're not in that area anymore. But they were there for a long time. The chief was, had a very strange name. His name was Draga Canoe. I can't remember what tribe he was from, but
Was it Blackfoot?
I believe it was Blackfoot. I believe you're right. Yeah.
We had Blackfoot here in the eastern Arkansas, northeastern Arkansas, because my uncle was part Blackfoot, and he come from over there. Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they've had all kinds of sightings since the 1700s when the French settlers come into Kentucky there in Tennessee of the land between, what's called land between lakes now. In that time, it was called the land between the rivers. There was 2 rivers on both sides, the Cumberland and the Tennessee. But when they built Kentucky Lake, they changed it to land between the lakes. So, but anyway, there's all kinds of stories that go way back about the dog man being there in the 1700s attacking animals and people.
Hey, Dale, Neil says that stuff's in his garage.
Well,
Your
you can
equipment.
have it.
Okay. You hear that, Neil? You can have it. Oh, wow. I didn't know that either. Blackfoot, the Indians was on White Rock Mountain, too. That's interesting. That's another one of our areas is on White Rock Mountain.
Okay.
We have a lot of the Choctaw Nation right across the border from us. So
At least they go all out.
Daryl didn't.
Yeah, I'm like Barry.
His
I'm
name's
like a
Daryl
1/8
Dutton. He's from
Choctaw.
Tennessee.
Neil said, awesome. Well, like I said, we done went over our hour mark and into the lights flashing real quick now. So I'll just let everybody go around clockwise and say your goodbyes and everything. And we'll see you next month when it gets back to me. I'll end the broadcast. I want everybody to have a happy Memorial Day. And if you have any encounter, like always, you can message me or send an email to the Arkansas Boys at gmail.com or just get a hold of me any way you can. All right. God bless everybody.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate it. And we'll thank everybody for watching, and appreciate the honor to be here.
Hey, God bless everybody. Like I said, I'm in north central Kentucky. If you're in Harrison, Bourbon, Scott, Grant, or Pendleton, or Robertson counties, and you see or hear anything, you can call me, email me, message me. Like Randy Wendell said, just get a hold of me however.
well, I really enjoyed your encounter tonight, Daryl. I hope we can have you back on soon to talk more about Dogman.
Sure, I'll be glad to. Wendell, thanks for inviting me. Guys, every one of you, I appreciate y'all letting me be on here and share what I have with you.
Yeah, I've learned something.
I did too. That's like I said, I'm excited to try them whistles. I've got a whole bag ordered on
Well, I can
Amazon.
tell you, if you find an area, I won't take much time because you're trying to get off here, but if you find an area where you got a family that lets you become friends with them, it's not easy. I've made friends with 3 families, but only one like the one on the river. Will never be another one like those. And remember, their favorite food is cantaloupe.
Huh.
And
Never tried
their favorite meat is cooked bacon. Who don't like that? I used to take them
Yeah.
2 pounds at a time. And their favorite sweet by far is jelly-filled donuts. They love them.
I love them too.
Yeah.
We didn't get
Well, I
to see
planted
much.
some melons in my garden. Maybe I can lure them in with them.
They like
There you go.
cantaloupe. That's their favorite.
We didn't get to see much of Ma on there. How you doing, Ma?
She's here.
Okay, I'm right here. I've been listening.
I seen you a minute ago wave on there, but
Yeah,
I just checking on you. It's good to see you're doing good.
I'm doing good right now. As far as I know, everything's as well as it can be. All my tests has all come back good. Thank God. Thank God for that.
Praise God.
Glad to talk to you. Glad to talk to you all. Glad to see all of you and know that you're doing okay.
Right. Glad you are too. Hope to see you, and y'all can be on next month. Like we do this every month around the 23rd. So we'll post it, and by then we'll have our investigation in June. And oh yeah, everybody that's in Arkansas can get out to the Cryptic Fest is June 5th or June 6th. Saturday, June 6th. It starts at 9 a.m. to like 3 at Little Rock at Old Bart's. Matthew Orton and the Drunken Cryptids is hosting it. Me and Dale's going to be there, and we're just they're going to greet everybody and pass out our cards and try to get more leads and get to know people. And we'll see anybody there. Dale I got a new vehicle over the week, and I'm going to break it in going to the Cryptid Fest. All right. Here's BC. Hey, you want to say goodbye, BC? We're fixing to log off.
I thought time ran out because everybody went blank. I couldn't hear anything. I thought our time got us. But anyway, nice meeting y'all. Nice meeting you, sir. And again, happy Memorial Day. And good Lord willing, we'll all be able to do this again next month.
Yep, we're looking forward to it, and hope everybody, like we said, has a happy Memorial Day. And God bless everybody. See y'all later.
Bye, y'all.
God bless you. See you later.